Join me right now on Kumite TV is UFC bantamweight prospect Casey Kenney. What's going on, Casey?
Not much, man. Just hanging out, watching the card tonight.
For sure, man. You're heading into fight week. How you feeling?
I feel great, man. Loving the bantamweight move. Not a terrible weight cut like flyweight, and just enjoying life. And I'm ready as ever, man.
Do you have any rituals during fight week? Do you have like some special socks or something? You see always these guys walking around with something.
Yeah, I try to keep everything somewhat, similar, but different places, different things. You end up doing a few different things, but I always have like some chips and salsa I go to after weigh-ins. That's like a big one for me. I try to get out and about, nothing like too particular, but just like at some point during fight week, go out and do something. Don't get cooped up too in the hotel too much. So that's a normal thing. Actually, what I do tonight is 1 week out from the fight. I have one glass of wine, like a kind of a celebratory fight camp glass of wine type of thing. So I do that. I'm about to have that in a little bit, but that's about all the rituals, really.
Do you have another like a hard training day, or is your hard training over with?
Yeah, Wednesday was my last like hard sparring, and then I've been hitting pads and stuff, and doing the runs, doing some grappling, drilling. Maybe some light grappling, nothing too hard. But like Monday, I'll probably do the same thing, do pretty much the same thing all fight week. Hit a little pads, move, feel how I want to move, and shadow box a lot. But just light work right now.
You've had two back-to-back short notice fights. How has having a full training camp been this time around?
It's been great, man. I like the short notice back to back fights. I was staying ready for a long time, but and it paid off. And I had a little break, and now I've had a full camp to, really get my cardio where it should be. Sharpen my weapons where they should be, and I feel like I'm the best ever right now.
You said after that last fight you wanted a chance to bulk up a little bit. Did you put on some weight?
Yeah, I've been sitting even like in the middle of camp. I've been sitting like 8 to 10 pounds heavier than what I normally do in the middle of a flyweight camp. And I feel like I look just as shredded, just as lean. Sitting 8 to 10 pounds heavier. So I think I put on some size and really just letting my body grow and be itself. Really, I feel like flyweight I was kind of sucking down a little bit. So that weight wasn't really hard to put on, and I knew it wouldn't be too hard. Something I experienced in college wrestling too, moving from 125 to 133. So I knew just eating well, Trifecta. They've partnered with the UFC. They've been feeding all the UFC fighters. That was a huge help this camp. Just having meals to grab, and not only meals but good food to put in between training sessions, after training sessions. So it was exactly what I wanted, man.
Have you gotten a chance to go out to the PI and get all the work done that like a lot of these fighters have been doing?
A little bit. I took a week and went to Vegas and trained with a couple friends over there. And it was like a short week, like 3 or 4 days. But I went to the PI and did some cryo type of thing. I didn't get in for like massages and all that. I was planning on it, but just didn't work out with the schedule. But definitely went over there, got some food, got some cryo treatment. So it was pretty cool to be. That was my first time using the PI as an actual UFC fighter. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, you can pump your chest out now. When you go there, right?
Right, yeah. Before, I was there on the Contender
Sneaking
Series. I
around.
was just like a little guy, and now it's, I'm the real deal. Like, hey, I get
Yeah,
free food every time I walk in here.
yeah, definitely, man. It's always good. Now you're heading to Anaheim. You're taking on Manny Bermudez. He is an undefeated guy. He is, one of the prospects just like you. What are your thoughts on him as an opponent?
Man, I think his record and his stats kind of speak for itself. He's a good submission guy. Um, I've seen, a few of his fights, and he's. I feel like he's okay everywhere else. He's okay striking. He's okay with the takedowns. His specialty is definitely, submitting you in a few different ways. So definitely, keeping my eye peeled for that. But really just being me this camp too. Not trying to focus too much on him.
Other than going to Vegas, where were some locations that you worked for this fight?
My last few fights I've been bringing in the MMA lab as well. We're going. I think my first title fight was there, and then of course Rise Combat Sports with Chris Cariaso. That's been my home since my whole career as an amateur as well. So I've been balancing, the Rise Combat Sports, the MMA Lab, Tucson Phoenix thing, and I feel like I got it down now. It's been a great little, low power mode. We had a great little, transition there, adding the MMA Lab kind of, when I needed to, and it's been a great addition to my career. So, I'm just going to keep going, bringing both the gyms with me.
What is Chris doing nowadays? Is he just focused on coaching, or is he still training, and is he still, looking for fights? What's going on with him?
He's retired from fighting, but he's still in there training with us all the time. He competes in jiu-jitsu now. That's where I think he gets, his competition fixed from. And but he's full-time coach, full-time coach, full-time gym owner. So we got a whole crew of amateur pro fighters that he coaches along with all the jiu-jitsu stuff. But full-time coach pretty much.
He must be, great to have around, and to be able to pick his brain, because he's been through the fire. He's faced Demetrius Johnson, he's fought the top guys in the division, and some of those guys are still around.
Right. Yeah, no, we always joke about I got like a hit list, all the guys that beat him in the UFC we're coming after. And it's great, man. He's got the firsthand experience. He's been there since day one. I didn't know hardly how to throw a punch, and definitely not a kick before I met him, and my striking, spoke for itself in my last few fights. And man, we've been together, I think, about like 6 years almost to the day. And, it was the best thing that's ever happened for my career. And, we're just beginning. It's been a long road to get to the UFC, but, he's been a great guy to have around, a great mentor. And, we're just getting started.
Your last opponent, Borg, he missed weight. Bermudez missed weight in his last fight. Are you a little worried about it, or do you just take the fight and just
really,
take the percentage?
Yeah, give me the money. I hope he misses weight. I hope he misses weight. Team 3 checks.
Definitely, man. That extra, it seems like it's always different, though, the percentage. I don't know. Is it like the same every time? Because sometimes I see like it's 20% and sometimes it's 30%. Maybe it's depending on how much weight they miss.
Yeah, it's about how much weight they've missed, how many times they've missed it, that type of thing. If you're a repeat offender, I think they go after the 30%. That was kind of the Borg situation. The standard was 20, and then, he's missed weight a few times. And not only that, but a few times with my manager. So, he had a talk with Mick, and it was 30%. So, bottom line is make weight. If you can't make the weight, move up a weight class. That's pretty simple. We got 2 jobs. We make weight and we fight. If you only do half of your job anywhere else, you're fired. So make weight.
It's basically you're getting a bonus, for someone else's mistake, which is nice, right?
Right. And, normally when they miss weight, they're hurting. You know what I mean? It's not something that they just go, oh, I don't want to make weight. Here's my money. Here's my pride, all that stuff. It's a bad weight cut for them. So I look at that as a plus for me on the, when I come into fight night. Like, he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to make weight. He's definitely not ready to fight me. And that's kind of the mentality I had with Borg, came right out the gate, right in front of him. Like, I'm here to fight you.
If you compare Bermudez to Borg, do you consider him a better overall fighter?
Not necessarily, no. Borg's been around. He's fought for a title. I think Borg is honestly a tougher opponent. You watched him get a win over a tough Silva, undefeated Silva. And he out-grappled a black belt who was, legit. And I think Manny's, submission game is a little more dangerous than Borg's, but as an overall fighter, overall grappler, like Borg's style of grappling, I think is harder to deal with than Manny's. So time will tell, but I think this is going to be a great fight for me.
Borg, he was, I think, ranked in the top 5, right? Flyweight.
Yeah, he was number 3 when I fought him.
Yeah. So how do you gauge that division? Do you see like maybe I could go back to flyweight and maybe make a run for that belt? Do you see yourself fighting both divisions?
Like I've said a few times now, like I think money or the right opponent would get me down to flyweight, but I'm really enjoying this bantamweight, run. And also the main thing is even with the resurgence of flyweight, I don't feel like it has the clout. It has the talent that bantamweight does. And I want to be on top of the bantamweight division. Top of one of the best divisions in the world, not a division that's just kind of hanging in there. Honestly, I'm letting my body become a bantamweight. It's going to take a lot to get me back down to flyweight.
Well, if you go in there this week or next weekend and get the job done, perform well, there's a lot of guys with big names that you can
Yep.
fight because you just knocked off an undefeated prospect, which is pretty
Right.
big in my book and probably in
Right.
the matchmaker's eyes. So, do you see yourself like jumping up, like many levels with this fight afterwards, maybe fighting like a Cody Garbrandt? Do you see a Cody Garbrandt in your future?
Yeah, I think I'd like to fight Cody Garbrandt one day. That's definitely a banger, and I like that matchup. Coming off 5 days notice win against Borg. Not only he beat another prospect on his fight after mine. So it kind of shows where he's at. I take out Bermudez on the biggest card of the year. I have no problem stepping up and fighting anybody they want me to. Top 5, top 10, top 15. Maybe one of those OG guys that are getting their faces in the bantamweight division, Frankie Edgar, Urijah Faber.
Oh,
That wouldn't be a bad matchup. All respect to those two. That would just be an honor for me to fight them. You know what I mean? To share the octagon with them.
yeah, just all of a sudden, the last couple months, the bantamweight division has become so exciting, especially
Yeah.
for you younger guys that are coming up, because these guys are with big names are jumping in, and you get a chance. Who knows what could happen in the next year. All you got to do is go take care of business.
Yep.
August 17th, UFC 241. It is the biggest card of the year, Anaheim, California. Thanks, Casey, for the time, and good luck on the fight and your future, man.
Hey, thanks, man. Always a pleasure. Thanks for your time as well. And looking to put on a show the 17th. So I'm sure we'll talk soon.